We are live. It's January the 8th, 2026. We got a crazy show for you. We're going to be going over some just recent events. Got JD Vance, Caroline Leavitt. They're going to be coming out to do a little press briefing. Oh yeah. Beautiful Caroline Leavitt. It's getting crazy out there, guys. War in Iran, we're going deep onto that. We got troops moving all over the world. Lines being drawn in the sand.
Generals gathered in their masses.
It's true.
Just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction. Sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning.
They're burning, and it's just the beginning.
As the war machine keeps turning.
Oh, it's gonna turn. Turn us all into the ground.
Poisoning their brainwashed minds. Oh, Lord, yeah.
It's what we do. The battle of civilizations is unfolding. What a great time to be alive. What's going on, y'all? It's me, SpaysE McG. What's going on? We're gonna talk about all that. We got JD Vance and Caroline Leavitt about to come out. I got some of the worst takes you've ever heard on one of the events that happened in Minnesota. We got new video from a different angle. We got this. We can clearly see what happened here. Look at the cop. He gets hit. He gets dragged. He shoots back through the front windshield. Well, that's going perfect to the music. Oh, it missed it that time. That's pretty cool. All right. We got these guys coming out. Are we looking at Iran? More Iran.
Day of judgment, God is calling.
New troop movements. We have, guys,
Underneath the war pigs
we have
calling.
motherfucking Delta Force.
Begging mercies for the sick.
Delta Force. The very same Delta Force that captured Maduro is in Iraq. What's going on, y'all? Oh, Lord, yes! Alright. Yeah, that's some badass shit. Ozzy Osbourne's some fucking badass shit, bro. Alright, so yeah. Oh, wait, we're gonna save that for the end. Alright, alright, well, who do we got out there? That was a pretty badass intro, actually, I think. Alright, guys, what's going on? Who do we got out here in the crowd? We got KP Heathen. We got Raymond J. Source Code. Jokerfish. Frank Totten. Charlotte sometimes, but not always. We got Steve Vash. We got A-Lord's Watchman. Freddie Sodium. AFPDX. What's up? What's up? Yeah. Yeah, guys, we got a lot going on. I don't know. I'm gonna try just to tell you what's going on, and then we'll save what I think is going, what it all means for the end. But I just don't want to fuck this up because there's a lot going on, and things are moving very fast. Normally, world events, really, I guess they kind of do, don't they? It's just like 1 minute there, next minute gone, isn't it? And that's kind of how it happens. I guess it's actually it's just unbelievable. So, what do we have going on right now? We have the U.S. and its allies. More importantly, I don't even know how to put this. Okay, the enemies of the United States are all having a bad time right now, like concurrently around the world, right? The U.S. may not necessarily be overtly winning at every turn, but our enemies, the bad guys, are having a bad go of it. Wherever they are, wherever they reside, there's bad things are happening to them right now, and it just keeps happening to them, and not us. Right? That's the important thing that you have to remember. What does happen to us is marginally good, if not a wash, right? Right? Like, what's this Venezuela thing really mean for us? Not really a whole lot, guys, honestly. Even if we get it up to its magical 7 million barrels of oil per day, which is the highest number I've heard quoted that can be done. It will take about $10 to $100 billion to do that, because what we left there in Venezuela no longer exists. All that shit is falling apart and rotted into the ground, and has been replaced with, let's just say, third world craftsmanship. Okay, and so they've gone from producing at one time, I've heard a number as high as 5 million barrels per day, down to producing, and I'm going to be generous here, 1 million barrels a day, right? Now that they don't have, like, Western, like, mechanics with, like, Western tools and machines that can machine other machines into, like, a high degree of precision, like with gears that have high precision, and you got to be able to calculate like decimal values that are like 20 digits long and shit. You know what I mean? They can't do that as well as we can, guys. So their shit is falling apart. Hey, we got Cloud K. So everything is falling apart. The infrastructure. So even if we get that oil from 1 million barrels, and I'm being really nice when I say 1 million, it's way less than that probably, up to this mythical 5 million, back to the pre-Hugo Chavez levels, right, of Venezuelan production. If we can get back to that, that's going to just even take like at least $10 billion. That's what they're saying, to rebuild it all. And even that is 5 million barrels a day. That's nothing, right? We produce almost 3 times that much oil every day. And we're, So, and we're actually the world's #1 producer of oil, if you guys didn't know that, by far. So, oh yeah, oh my God, Raymond is so smart. China's factories are closing all over. Yeah. We are rebalancing everything in that whole sphere. When you go all the way up to even how we relate with China, right? Let's give these guys some volume so that when she comes out, we'll be able to hear. Okay, so yeah, so even in terms of China's domestic production, we're going to have an effect. All of this ties together, right? Venezuela's oil doesn't mean shit to us, but it does mean a lot to countries like Russia and China and Iran and, all the countries that don't like us, all the BRICS nations, India, etc., right? All the haters, all of our haters around the world, right, are going to suffer because of Venezuelan oil is no longer flowing to them, right, at the volume that it was, right? Because all that shit's going to go onto a global market at fucking market value, and what it's going to do is it's going to bring down the cost of oil worldwide, right? To a point that our enemies no longer can make profitable oil, right? Now it's getting to the point where they're barely breaking even. We can make we can make money on oil at $27 a barrel, right? $30 a barrel. At $30 a barrel, for sure, we can make money on oil, right? Because we just have way better systems in place than they have. And way better oil than most of them have, right? I was wrong. Venezuela does have some very good oil, but we have by far better oil than them. At least some of our oil. There's certain types of our oil that is better than their oil. So, like, they have a lot of junk oil too. Like Russian style oil too. Like garbage oil too. They have good oil too. Don't get me wrong, they have good oil, but they also have a lot of garbage. And their good oil is not as good as ours. So this now you have to think about what's going on in Iran, right? Like, what the fuck is going on in Iran, right? Well, first of all, this is an internal thing in Iran right now, right? The U.S. is not, we're not, like, actively carrying out hostile action against Iran, right? We're threatening it. We're posturing like we will if they do anything. And that's why, although it says rises to 38 people, the death toll is only 38. Now, that doesn't mean that the 2,000 prisoners that they've taken hostage aren't dead. They very well could all be dead. All 2,000 of those people could have already been executed. It's very possible, right? But for all we know, there's only 38 that are dead, which is unusual for Iran, right? Iran by now, right? And what has happened actually is that the riots and the protests have pretty much spread to every city. 29, I believe, or 30 out of 31 provinces, or 32. So there's somewhere around 30 out of 32, let's say, provinces, right, have revolted or up in revolt in Iran, right? Right? Let me see if I can get some quotes here. Okay, we have Russians. We have reports of Russians that are coming in and supplying Iran. Okay. Reports that Khamenei is planning on leaving for Moscow. That's the plan B for him, is to go to Moscow. So he already has a plan B, okay? No, Charlotte, it's crazy. They do have internet. In fact, every time they try to shut down the internet, it's almost like Jewish hackers like get in control of their switchboards and fucking turn it back on. It's almost like hackers are getting inside of their telecom systems and turning the internet back on for the people when they shut it off, right? The government is actively trying right now to get the internet shut off, right? But they can't, right? And then on top of it, yes. And well, we don't know for sure that the hackers, but what we know is that they have not yet successfully completely turned the internet off. Like there's still like some internet, right? And when it does go out, it goes right back on, right? Like every time they shut it down, it comes right back on. And plus, there's also Starlink now. Is that what it's called? Elon Musk? Starlink? Yes. Skynet, whatever. Skynet now. They have Skynet now, too. So, I'm calling it Skynet. That's what my brain said. That's what it wants me to call it. I'm calling it Skynet. They have Skynet, which is Starlink, or whatever it is. Yes. Yes. So, and we've seen that Elon has purposely diverted an array over Iran to make sure that they're covered, right? Now, but I've seen the video of the Starlink line. If you've ever seen it, I've seen it with my own eyes. It's a line that comes up like over the horizon, right? And then shoots right by. Boom. It's like a line of dots. You can find the video out there. I don't have it. I wasn't prepared for this. But yes. Now. Here. So here's a new video, right, of the shooting that you haven't seen yet. This is from this here, right here. I hope that's coming through. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, right here. You can see the front of the car, right? The windshield is right here. Okay. This is the suspect vehicle right here, okay? Let's go. All right, so now we have officers, like, it looks like they're coming up to the car, right? That's what it looks like, I don't know. There's some other people getting in cars and driving away, right? And now we see officers coming up to the car, right? Here's an officer in the front right there. Boom. You see him get hit, right? The tree is a little bit in the way, but we can infer from some of the motion there, I think, that it definitely hit him, right? And if that doesn't change your mind, then this absolutely will change your mind, right here, right? You can clearly see, right? The officer was plowed by the car. Boom, right? Boom. So, oh, wait, I don't want to play that. All right, now, yeah, so that's what's going on, okay, with this. Now I'm going to turn to breaking points real quick, because I just hate Crystal Ball now. I used to like her. I used to think she was cool and everything, but now I think she's stupid and dumb. Okay, so here's Sagar, you know. If you guys never seen the show, there's these two, and they kind of, one is a rightist, not really, and one is a leftist. But they're supposed to be centrist. But really, It's a center right guy and a far left girl. Now, Crystal has gone from center to the far left, and you're about to hear it.
But you do also have to keep in mind about disobeying orders. And, I would also caution everyone. You should remember that almost every, kind of left liberal cause celeb has ended up either not charged or not found guilty at trial. If I could just rack off so that's what I'm saying, judge, jury from video often plays very differently whenever it becomes before grand jury and jury. So we have Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Daniel Penny, Kyle Rittenhouse. There are multiple, Breonna Taylor, multiple incidents which became kind of protest cause celebs. In fact, I'm hard pressed to think of one where there is such a question like there is in this case.
George Floyd Derek Chauvin went to jail where he's been stabbed multiple times, I think. At least once for sure. But I feel like I remember it happening before, maybe twice. I feel like this is the second time he got stabbed. But recently, Derek Chauvin was stabbed in jail.
That didn't actually end up either being not charged and or found not guilty at trial. It's really only in like the George Floyd case or others where it's genuinely just so explicit and indefensible that you do find.
I beg to differ, Sagar. See, this is what I'm saying. Sagar is not really based or anything.
Somebody. There's an extraordinary amount of deference in the United States case and state law that generally goes to police officers. And that's why I think this is a tragic, tragic situation. So, yes, we can all sit here and claim otherwise. I do not presume to be in the minds of a Minneapolis state jury or a federal jury, but I definitely would caution people to understand that with their expectations and consider the history that I just laid out. Something that may be very obvious to you is not usually obvious to a jury. And I do think the fact that contact was made ultimately is going to be very, very important. And I think kind of zooming out from that, then we need to ask, and I do think there's also just deep amount of criticism.
Hey, Charlotte, I think you sent me money over
these ICE
the
agents.
last
There's
time
been a lot of concern. You've laid it out before as well about the 47 days of training, accelerated training. There's a potentially some indication that this officer may have violated internal guidelines, which we'll get to here in a little bit. I do also think, though, and I'm not blaming this woman, for her death. I do think that she certainly did not act correctly. Fleeing an officer, a federal agent who's telling you to get out of your car is extremely irresponsible. It's just not something.
Yeah, that's to say the least. It's extremely irresponsible. Now, here Crystal's stunningly retarded take on all this.
Which anyone can empathize and understand why somebody who can panic in that situation. But I also do think we should caution people from, look, if you're putting yourself in these types of situations, which we've seen over and over again, I think there is an unfortunate kind of permissiveness where a lot of people who think that they're standing up against any cause, that they think is just, where ultimately, they're putting themselves in very, very dangerous situations where things can go awry.
What we used to say before fuck around and find out, play stupid games and you win stupid prizes. Isn't that what we used to say back then? Right? I believe that's nothing. That is the incident that occurred here. Is this woman wrote a check that her ass could not cash.
I saw some interesting. Go ahead.
Oh, we got Caroline. Oh no, wait. We have Crystal. Here we go. Here's the take we've been waiting for. So, Sagar, just to recap, Sagar's saying there's an amount of personal responsibility that you have. That when you're out in the middle of the road, perpendicular to the direction of traffic, right, trying to obstruct federal law enforcement, right, that there's a level of personal responsibility that you have for your actions, right? When you cross the line from standing on the street corner, waving a flag and a sign, to like blocking the street during the middle of a fucking investigation, right? That you have personal responsibility, right? Essentially, that's his argument, to sum it up, right? So let's hear what Crystal has to say about that.
Just, I would like the federal agents are supposed to be the trained professionals, right?
Yes, they are trained professionals. And their first training is to neutralize a hostile threat. That's what they are. They have a split-second training that identifies and neutralizes threats, right? Right, and that's what they're trained to do, and that's why that officer That may be the reason that that officer is not crippled today, is that he took that lady out, right?
Right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to be de-escalating. They're supposed to be keeping everyone
He
safe.
did de-escalate it. There's no better way to de-escalate a hostile fucking non-compliant fleeing suspect than to neutralize them. That is the ultimate de-escalation.
That's like they're supposed to be trained to do that.
And he was trained to do that, and that's why it looks beautiful. That's why he will not be in trouble. Everything is clear for him. You bring up my point, is he was trained to do that.
Meanwhile, you know, you have a woman who is 37 years old. Her name is Renee Good. She's a mother, by the way. Now, at least, you know, I've seen conflicting reports. She has at least one child. He's now
And a lesbian wife, and she's gay married. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just going to point that out because it's always something with these people. Like, this is always almost certainly the case with these people.
orphan because his dad is also deceased several years back.
The pop is
In
dead.
any case,
I bet you that's a closet they don't want opened.
you know, there's such high expectations placed on the civilian protester. We can put A3B up on the screen where eyewitnesses say that she was being given all these
Hey, what's up,
conflicting
girl gone
reports.
dog?
Let me just read this part. Townsend said one person, the woman who was shot a short time later, drove her vehicle perpendicular to the lanes of traffic. By that point, the vehicle stuck in the snow had been free.
Yes, girl gone dog. You are absolutely correct. Not only that, that woman had been following and harassing the ICE for days. For days, right? She has been pulling this shit for days. So there's that too, right? It's not the first time they had seen her there. She and her own people admitted to it that that's what they've been doing for weeks, right? And the ICE said days. For days, they had been obstructing them for days. These people.
Freed. Some of them were leaving. They just went around her. ICE gave her orders to leave, while at the same time, another ICE person said, "Get out of the car."
Hold on. I
This
think we
part,
missed
Townsend
it.
said one person, the woman who's A3B up. You know, there's such high expectations placed on the civilian protester.
There are such high expectations placed on the civilian protester. Well, only that they follow lawful orders and stay out of the road, basically, is the only thing that they were asking them to do. That's not a high expectation. That's expected of everyone, whether you're protesting or not, is to like not park your car in the middle of the street, blocking both lanes of traffic in both directions, right? And definitely don't flee the scene of a crime and try to hit a police officer, is all I'm saying, right? Like, it's not high expectations. Those are remarkably low expectations, right? You're a moron, you're retarded, and I don't think we have any reason to listen to you, but we will anyway, so we can laugh. Let's go.
We can put A3B up on the screen where eyewitnesses say that she was being given all these conflicting reports. Let me just read this part. Townsend said one person, the woman who was shot a short time later, drove her vehicle perpendicular to the lanes of traffic. By that point, the vehicle stuck in the snow had been freed. Some of them were leaving. They just went around her. ICE gave her orders to leave, while at the same time, another ICE person said, "Get out of the car," and reached for her door handle. Then there was an ICE agent in front of her vehicle, so it was difficult for her to leave, as she'd been ordered to do.
Yeah, it was difficult without running over a police officer, which she did, right? And in split-second training, and you know, the officer had to put her down. What would you do? What would you do if it was you and someone was barreling at you with their car after had already been drugged down the street like that in the past, right? You know what these people are going to do. This same cop has already been drugged down the street, right? Yeah. Oh, we got Caroline, yeah.
And this
President Trump and his entire administration stand fully behind the heroic men and women of ICE and will always
Good.
uphold law and order in the United States of America. The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement that has spread across our country, where our brave men and women of federal law enforcement are under organized attack. Right now.
Wow. What a fucking opening. Let's go ahead. We're just going to rewind this whole fucking thing because that was badass. And I think that she fucking nailed it. Let's go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me be clear. President Trump and his entire administration stand fully behind the heroic men and women of ICE and will always uphold law and order in the United States of America. The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement that has spread across our country, where our brave men and women of federal law enforcement are under organized attack. Right now, immigration and customs enforcement officers are facing a 1,200% increase in assaults.
1,200.
A 32.
That is 12 times, guys. Said not 1,200 times. 1,200% is 12 times.
3,200% increase in vehicle rammings.
Times.
And an
32 times increase in vehicle rammings, just like we witnessed. That cop, it's so common that that's the second time it happened to that same cop.
1,000% increase in death threats. ICE agents are faithfully enforcing federal law to protect the safety of the American people by removing criminal illegal aliens from our country, which is exactly what nearly 80 million Americans elected President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance to do. Radicals in the Democrat Party are furious over this. They don't want our border secured or criminal illegal aliens being removed. As a result, Democrats are impeding immigration enforcement operations daily, creating extremely heightened and dangerous circumstances that make it nearly impossible for the men and women of law enforcement to simply do their jobs. Democrats are calling to defund federal law enforcement agencies who are protecting public safety.
Yeah, we're calling to defund Democrats.
Democrats are calling to abolish ICE and defund the police. That will never be allowed to happen under this president and vice president. The Trump administration will redouble our efforts to get the worst of the worst, criminal illegal alien killers, rapists, and pedophiles off of American streets. The Department of Homeland Security will continue to operate on the ground in Minnesota, not only to remove criminal illegal aliens, but also to continue conducting door-to-door investigations of the rampant fraud that has taken place in the state under the failed and corrupt leadership of Democrat Governor Tim Walz. Taxpayers have been ripped off to the tune of billions of dollars in this one state alone, and that is going to end, and people are going to be held accountable. The Trump administration has activated...
I say that all the time. When do they ever get held accountable? I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, I love the sentiment or whatever, but I hear that every day, knowing it never happened.
Thousands of federal agents, doubled the number of U.S. attorneys in the DOJ office in Minneapolis, and surged resources to hold fraudsters accountable and demand justice for law-abiding American taxpayers and citizens across our country. And that's what brings the Vice President out here with me today to discuss all the Trump administration is doing and to make an additional important announcement on this front. So please, Mr. Vice President, will be joining us now.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I want to echo some of what Carolyn said about what we're doing to combat the rampant fraud that exists in our immigration system.
Oh, shit.
Thanks to failed politicians and thanks to people who allowed the American taxpayer to be taken advantage of for far too long. I think it's important to understand why this matters to the American people. I am a father of 3 young kids, a lot of people in my generation.
Okay, it's definitely them. All right.
What is that going on there? Is that normal? Okay. CNN installed this broken camera just to throw me off my game, but it's not going to work. So here's the simple fact here. If you're a young parent struggling to afford childcare in the United States of America, there are programs that we have to make it easier for your kids to get in daycare, for your kids to get in preschool.
Way to go, Caroline.
Those programs
She actually
should go
went
to
over there and
American
took care of it.
citizens, not be defrauded by Somali immigrants and others. Make it hard
That's
for you
proactive as a
to get the access to the resources you need. But number two, making it easier for people who shouldn't even be in this country to fleece the United States and our taxpayers to begin with. We have actually activated a major interagency task force to make it possible to get to the heart of this fraud. We have Department of Agriculture resources that are focused on SNAP fraud so that people who need food benefits can get them, but illegal aliens and other fraudsters don't. We have over 1,500 subpoenas that the Department of Justice has issued to get to the heart of the fraud ring. We've done almost 100 indictments, mostly Somali immigrants, but also a few others.
Somalis,
and of course, we're looking in with broad investigatory authority to a number of the instances of wrongdoing that we've seen in Minneapolis. But we also want to expand this. We know that the fraud isn't just happening in Minneapolis, it's also happening in states like Ohio. It's happening in states like California. And so what we're doing in order to help coordinate this remarkable interagency effort from the Trump administration, but also to make sure that we prosecute the bad guys and do it as swiftly and efficiently as possible, is we are creating a new Assistant Attorney General position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because, unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way. I want to thank a couple of people for their cooperation, in particular Pam Bondi, our Attorney General. First of all, for getting a lot of resources to Minneapolis to start to investigate and prosecute this fraud, really at an industrial scale. We've never seen fraud like this in the history of our country. Pam has been doing a great job to get the resources there to uncover it, but importantly, creating a job like this often takes months, sometimes even longer. When we realized that we needed this Associate Attorney General position, Pam got this person up and running in about a week. We're going to make the nomination hopefully in the next few days. We'll obviously let you guys know who that is when we do it. I've talked to Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who has promised me swift confirmation.
And I hope that they do find fraud in all the states, right? I don't care if it's a Republican, if it's a Democrat. If you're working with immigrants to defraud the welfare system in order to pocket money for you and your friends, you need to go to prison.
For this official, but this is the person who is going to make sure that we stop defrauding the American people. And here's one final thing I'll say about this. I've heard a lot of people say that we need a special counsel to investigate fraud in the United States of America. I actually agree, and that's what this position does. It has all the benefits, all the resources, all the authority of a special counsel, but with two crucial differences. Number one, it will be run out of the White House under the supervision of me and the President of the United States. And number two, it's actually constitutionally legitimate. As you guys may know, the special counsel statute has some major constitutional questions. When we get the bad guys, we want to make sure we get them permanently and they don't have some legal technicality they can get out of, which is why we set it up as an Associate Attorney General.
Did you guys hear about the weird trans weirdo that like smashed the windows at JD Vance's house? That's like right here in Cincinnati. It's like not even that far. Actually, one of the hotels that I work at, the Secret Service came there. That's where they stay for JD Vance when they come to Cincinnati. And we had to set up a special room for them, and no one's allowed in it. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? Yeah.
I'll take some questions, but I want to make just one final observation here. When I was actually walking out here, somebody sent me a photo of a CNN headline about what happened in Minneapolis. And this is the headline. I'm just going to read it. Outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. Well, that's one way to put it, and that is the way that many people in the corporate media have put this attack over the last 24 hours. And I say attack very, very intentionally, because this was an attack on federal law enforcement. This was an attack on law and order. This was an attack on the American people. The way that the media, by and large, has reported this story has been an absolute disgrace, and it puts our law enforcement officers at risk every single day. What that headline leaves out is the fact that that very ICE officer nearly had his life ended, dragged by a car 6 months ago, 33 stitches in his leg. So you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile? What that headline leaves out is that that woman was there to interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation in the United States of America. What that headline leaves out is that that woman is part of a broader left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and to make it impossible for our ICE officers to do their job. If the media wants to tell the truth, they ought to tell the truth that a group of left-wing radicals have been working tirelessly, sometimes using domestic terror techniques to try to make it impossible for the President of the United States to do what the American people elected him to do, which is enforce our immigration laws. The President stands with ICE. I stand with ICE. We stand with all of our law enforcement officers. And part of that is recognizing that you people in the media, not everybody in this room, but many people in this room have been lying about this attack. She was trying to ram this guy with her car. He shot back. He defended himself. He's already been seriously wounded in law enforcement operations before, and everybody is keeping alive. This is some innocent woman who was out for a drive in Minneapolis when a law enforcement officer shot at her. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Every single one of you. Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I wanted to read a quote from Tim Walz earlier today. He said, "When things looked bleak, it was Minnesota's first that held the line for the nation on July 3rd, 1863, and I think we may be in that moment now." Can you comment on his rhetoric and Mayor Jacob Frey and whether they want to see unrest in Minneapolis?
Well, that's very tough rhetoric from a guy who just quit because his fraudulent activities have been uncovered. Look, Tim Walz is a joke. His entire administration has been a joke. The idea that he's some sort of freedom fighter, he's not. He's a guy who has enabled fraud and maybe, in fact, has participated in fraud. That's what this new Assistant Attorney General position is going to find out. I don't care what Tim Walz says. I care about getting to the bottom of this fraud for the American people, and I care about enforcing the nation's immigration laws. That's what we're going to stay focused on.
Good. Unrelated question here. I mean, Democrats have accused ICE of murder. They've said they're targeting Americans. They've told ICE to get the F out of Minnesota. This is going to stoke the fire against ICE agents, and you're talking about ICE agents right now and being concerned about them. What, if anything, is the administration going to do to make sure these folks are protected during these protests? But also, should DHS sort of revisit their procedures here? I mean, nobody wants to see an American killed. Are there changes that need to be made to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Look, first of all, of course, nobody wants an American citizen to be killed. This is absolutely a tragedy, but it's a tragedy of the making of the far left. They have radicalized a very small segment of the population, taught them that ICE agents are engaging in wide-scale violation of people's rights. What our ICE officers are doing is deporting the millions of criminal aliens that were let in during the Biden administration. So number one, we have to say, as a matter of leadership, and I would appreciate if the Democrats would join me on this, let's be honest about the fact that we have way too many illegal aliens in this country. Our ICE officers should be supported in doing their job. You're trying to actually marshal the far left lunatic fringe to engage in doxing, to try to make it impossible for them to enforce the law, and in some cases actually to engage in acts of domestic terrorism against our law enforcement officers. When you talk about different plans, different protocols, different policies, I forget exactly how you asked the question. Here's the simple fact. What we're going to do is make it easier for the American people's administration to enforce the American people's law. And that means that Democrats have to stop rallying the mob against legitimate law enforcement operations. And that means that we are going to get tougher, and that's what this AAG position is about. We're going to get tougher at the people who are defrauding the United States by inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's one of the things that we're going to do. We've already started that work at the Department of Justice, but we're going to keep on doing it, and this new AAG position is going to kick that into high gear.
Okay.
Vice President Vance,
good.
You just...
Wow. JD, like, exactly when it was time to wrap it up and getting annoyingly long, he wrapped it up because it was annoyingly long. So that was actually, the man has great timing. Excellent.
Suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the...
Good question, Peter. He asked who's behind this broad left-wing network.
Things we're going to have to figure out, but here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis,
So that's a
you see
reasonable
friends
question.
of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it, who's supporting it, who's cheerleading it, and of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received
Why am I
any
laughing?
information?
Because these are the
videos
same
we've
people
seen
that are
publicly
saying that the
about
cops are
this-
guilty. Right. These are the same people saying that the cops are definitely guilty, or saying, is it fair to say that this woman did a thing? But them cops are guilty.
Individual, her specific.
We don't care what your objective truth says and your demonstrably proof, your demonstrable proof, right? We don't care about any of that.
Your point of view.
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that.
True.
I can
All
believe
these
that her
things are
death is a
true.
tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has
A
marshaled
tragedy
an
of her
entire
own making.
movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies. You don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement. But why don't you take this to the ballot
we don't
box?
believe shit.
Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's
Her
been
FAFO
heated
is
rhetoric
in
that we've
full
also
effect.
heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play
FAFO
out in
indeed,
Minnesota,
guys.
bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the
I
United
don't think
States
Renee
of
is
America.
bad. She's
Now,
just
again,
stupid,
I
and she
don't.
fucked
I'm
around
not
and
happy
found
that
out.
this woman.
Right. I don't think that Renee is a bad person, right? I bet she's... I bet she's like actually probably a bad person. But I don't know that, right? Right, but from what I do know about her is that she's an angry rich white lady that's married to another woman that wants to follow around the police and obstruct them and yell at them all day long. I mean, that's not a great person right there, right? That's like kind of a terrible person, right? Already, right? right? That, probably hates me just for what I look like and where I come from, right? Like, I don't hate her, but I definitely wouldn't want to go on a date with her, right? Probably because I'm not into lesbians, but that's a different story. Okay.
Lost her life. I'm not happy that this
There's a
woman
reason
was
why they
there
date
at
ladies,
a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature. And we're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. people trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them.
Yeah, it's all
Sometimes they
bullshit.
go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before. Yeah.
Thanks for taking my question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigation.
Every time I see JD in my mind, I see like the trailer park JD with like the Jerry curl and the like fuzzy chin. I don't know. It's fucking hilarious.
Investigations agencies access to the investigation. What is the precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground
Like
have
the
access
Cabbage
to evidence
Patch
to work
looking
on
JD
this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop. Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. You said earlier that there's a left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and make it impossible for ICE officers to do their job. You told my colleague just now that there's an investigation going on into that network.
Yep.
So if everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. What is, I'm sorry guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked me a question that presumed that the reason why this woman died is because she was engaged in legitimate protest. She tried to run somebody over with her car, and the guy defended himself when that happened. Next question.
The investigation is still ongoing.
I said next question.
Mr. Vice President,
I said next question.
The video yourself. There's not the slightest doubt in your mind, having viewed it, that the victim, you still believe that she deliberately tried to ram him despite seeing this video.
Whether it was deliberate or
Look,
not.
I don't know what is in a person's heart or in a person's head, and obviously we're not going to get the chance to ask this woman what was going on. What I am certain of is that she violated the law. What I'm certain of is that that officer had every reason to think that he was under very serious threat for injury or in fact, his life.
Yeah, because he's been through this before. The guy has been drugged before. That has been confirmed by multiple people up to and including Christy, no.
What I'm certain of is that she accelerated in a way where she ran into the guy. I don't know what was in her heart and what was in her head, but I know that she violated the law, and I know that officer was acting in self-defense. It raises an interesting point, though. Look, if people want to say that we should have a legitimate debate about, what was she really doing, right? Was she panicking when she drove into this officer, or was she actually trying to ram him? That's a reasonable conversation. What's not reasonable is for so many of you to plaster all over the media that this was an innocent woman and that the ICE agent committed murder.
Yeah, no shit.
Which is what many of you have said explicitly, and some of you have said implicitly.
That's what I just said.
That's what I have an objection to. The idea that this was not justified is absurd, and I think everybody knows it in their heart. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President,
In the green jacket.
I did, but I messed it up somehow.
It seems like political violence is ratcheting up and riots could be around the corner. What steps does the administration have planned to try to unite America? Average people on both political sides are so tired of fighting with each other, and I think all the journalists in this room could agree with me that we don't want to be part of the problem. Do you have any words to unite America?
I know you don't want to be a part of the problem, and I think that's true of a lot of you. I'm not sure it's true for everybody, because the reporting over this has been one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen in media. I've never seen a case so misrepresented and misreported when you have a guy who was defending himself and is now being treated as some sort of federal assassin by so many of the people in this room. First of all, let me say about crime. You mentioned violence. One of the things we're proudest about is that you saw violent crime over the last year drop by 20%. Why is that drop by 20%? Is it because we're attacking our law enforcement officers, or is it because we in the administration are empowering our law enforcement officers to enforce the law? I think that's one of the ways you take down the temperature, is you make people feel more secure and safe in their person and property. That's why we care so much about protecting our law enforcement, because it accrues to the benefit of the entire national community. I think that we can absolutely talk about the ways in which, we can lower the temperature by discussing differences in a reasonable and rational way. Again, I'm happy to talk with any congressional Democrat or any of you about our immigration policy, about why I think it's necessary, about why I think it's in the best interest of the country, about why the President of the United States was elected to actually enforce the border for the first time in at least 4 years. So here's the problem. That's not the debate so many people are having. They are actively covering for people who are committing acts of violence against federal law enforcement. It is preposterous. The way to take down the temperature is to stop it. Have your debates about policy. Attack me. Attack the President of the United States. Don't attack our law enforcement officers. They are trying to do the job the American people demanded that they do. They are not policy actors.
Oh yeah, I can make a new hookah. I will do that
the
today.
law. They should be treated with a modicum of dignity and respect. And the fact that they're not is why incidents like yesterday happened. The one final point I'll make about this is, look, there's a part of me that feels very, very sad for this woman, not just because she lost her life, but because I think she is a victim of left-wing ideology. What young mother shows up and decides they're going to throw their car in front of ICE officers who are enforcing legitimate law? You've got to be a little brainwashed to get to that point to where you're willing, not just to protest, that's fine.
That's a little too far even for me.
But throw your vehicle in front of legitimate law enforcement officers and drive your car into them. To get to that point, you have to be, I think, radicalized in a very, very sad way. I certainly wish that she hadn't got there. I know there's an ICE officer right now who very much wishes he was not put in the position where he had to fire a gun to defend his own life. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. What's your message, following up on that, what's your message to the leaders in Minnesota, the governor of Minnesota, the mayor of Minneapolis, to calm down the situation on the ground?
How come no one ever
What's your message also
protested
to
when
those
Obama
protesters
was doing
who
ICE raids?
saw that
I don't know.
video in a completely different way than you saw
Because
that video?
they don't protest.
Well, first of all, I think if you watch every angle,
when Democrats put kids in cages, it's okay. That's okay, right? That's okay. That is totally cool. But when Republicans put kids in cages, that's a fucking crime, right? When Obama does regime change in Syria, that's totally cool, right? We'll throw thousands of men into the fucking meat grinder, right? When Trump does regime change in Venezuela, oh God, no, God, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. Okay, all right.
Angle of that video, there is one angle where if you squint, you can maybe tell yourself that it's not clear what happened. But when you look at all angles of that video, it is very clear that her vehicle went right for the guy.
They
She
made
actually
Kyle
collided
into a
with
murderer before he had a fair trial. They were absolutely calling him a white supremacist that killed black people when all the people that he killed were white. They absolutely called Kyle a fucking white supremacist that murdered black people. Literally.
them, and then that's of course when he fired his shots. That's obvious, okay? So what I'd say to the protesters is by all means protest peacefully, but make this about ideas. Make this about disagreement with our policy. Don't use your protest as a justification or an encouragement for people to go and incite violence and participate in violence against our law enforcement officials. To the people on the ground in Minneapolis, meaning the local officials in Minneapolis from Tim Walz on down, I'd say, look, why can't you just disagree with a given piece of immigration policy without turning law enforcement into the enemy? And what,
Clinton was a badass.
Think about, for example,
I think that we all can agree that Bill Clinton was pretty fucking good, right? As far as Democrats go, he's like the best one that I've ever seen.
A criminal law where a police officer goes and arrests somebody because they violated a criminal law. If you're mad about that, go and protest the politician who passed that law. Don't attack the police officer who's just doing their job. We had a wide open border under Joe Biden. I happen to think it's a good thing the President of the United States has closed it down. If you think that's a bad idea, criticize this administration for a policy decision. Don't attack our people for enforcing the law, because I guarantee you go to ICE, there are black people and white people, there are Democrats and Republicans, they are patriotic Americans who are trying to enforce the law. Attack me, lay off of our ICE agents. Yeah, in the blue, all the way, yeah.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Vice President. You've called on Tim Walz to resign. Can you lay out the case as to why he should step down?
Well, look, I think Tim Walz should resign because it's very clear either that he knew about the fraud in Minneapolis, he knew about the welfare fraud, or at the very least he looked the other way. I mean, this is not... This is not like Lex Luthor, right? This is not movie villain fraud. This is the lowest IQ possible fraud. This is, we're going to take kids...
Everybody.
Or sorry, we're going to take the absence of kids and set up a...
George Bush let Putin steal the country called Georgia. If you guys remember that.
Daycare center where there are no children, and we're going to call our early childhood education center the Quality Leering Center. By the way, if you can't spell learning, maybe you shouldn't be in early childhood education. But people got rich off of this. We know that there were schools who either had no enrollment or at least they overstated their enrollment. Tim Walz, either it was unbelievable incompetence or he was in on the fraud. That's one of the things we're going to get to the bottom of. Sir.
Sure, get to the bottom of it.
Vice President, can you explain the difference between this Associate Attorney General and a special counsel? And do you envision this being a permanent position or having more of a limited scope?
Well, it's going to be permanent until we get to the bottom of what's going on. So I think it's going to last for at least the remainder of the administration.
I can explain the difference. One takes congressional approval and the other is a decree by the Justice Department. Does that make sense? A special counsel has to be like voted on and all that shit. A fucking, what do they call it? An attorney general. They could just say, hey, we need a new one of these.
What's different about it from a special counsel is if you remember the Jack Smith case where the special counsel was found unconstitutional, one of the big issues there is that that person was not an appointed person. Completely aside from all the other issues that the person was a lunatic and that the case had no merit, there was a fundamental constitutional issue, which is that he had not been appointed by the president and he had not been confirmed by the United States Senate. An assistant attorney general, what that's going to allow us to do is appoint this person, have them confirmed by the Senate. That's one difference. The more substantive difference is that this person is going to be part of a very broad interagency White House that's being led from the President of the United States on down. And that's going to give them the resources, the access to material and information to make this person more effective. I think a lot of people have asked, how are you really going to get to
that a special counsel would have, at least. It's going to be something totally different.
part of the fraud? We've been asking ourselves that question for the past couple of months, and we think this is the critical piece at the Department of Justice to really ramp this fraud investigation into high gear. In the red tie. Yeah.
Vice President Vance, I want to ask, what's your message to far leftist agitators who feel emboldened to obstruct ICE activity in Minnesota and around the country?
Well, I think they shouldn't feel emboldened because now they have an assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate their fraud and their violence more aggressively than it has ever been investigated in the United States of America. We are doing so much to try to find the financing networks and the domestic terrorism networks that legitimate this violence, that fund this violence, and that, of course, engage in the violence. These people should not feel emboldened because they have, for the first time, maybe in American history, an administration that is not going to tolerate political violence of any kind from anywhere. Yeah.
We are clear today that the entire weight of the federal government is behind these ICE agents and this ICE agent in particular. There is still a federal investigation happening on the ground. Does that mean that they are not looking into this ICE agent at all? They are just focused on the woman who was in the car? What is the investigation if the federal government has already determined that its weight is behind this ICE investigation?
So what do you mean when you say investigation? Do you mean investigation of the shooting yesterday or of the fraud that's happening in Minneapolis?
Yesterday.
Okay, look, DHS, as I understand it, has an investigation already ongoing. I know that.
Is it because of those dreamy eyes? That was I thought that JD's dreamy eyes would win votes.
Other organs of our government are looking at this. So yes, there's certainly an investigation.
When I saw him at the vice presidential debate, I was like, wow, he has dreamy eyes. Women are going to vote
happening
for him
right now. But as part of the broader fraud investigation, a lot of what we're doing with the Department of Justice has already started. We've got over 1,500 subpoenas. We've got people this morning, actually. We're going door to door to actually knock on some of these fraudulent care centers, these fraudulent social services organizations to get to the bottom of what's going on there. So the investigation in some ways has already been ramping up into the anti-fraud element for at least a few weeks. What we're trying to do is supercharge it and make sure there's a designated person within the Department of Justice who completely controls that particular focus.
Just to follow up on that, Mr. Vice President, on the agent, is he still on duty or has he been placed on leave, on administrative leave? And what really was the target of the operation on Wednesday? Of the ICE operation on Wednesday?
Well, first of all, it was a legitimate law enforcement operation. We were going door to door to try to find criminal illegal aliens and deport them from the United States of America, because if you come to our country illegally in violation of our immigration laws, then we have the mandate, and in fact we have the legal duty to enforce those immigration laws. Whether he's been placed on administrative leave, I don't know the answer to that question. I'd refer it to the Department of Homeland Security and they can follow up. I will say, look, I would appreciate everybody saying a prayer for that agent. Look, in the past 6 months, he has been hit twice by a motor vehicle. One time, the first time, it led to over 30 stitches and very serious injuries to his legs. This is a guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America. He's been assaulted, he's been attacked, he's been injured because of it. He deserves a debt of gratitude, and I think the media prejudging and talking about this guy as if he's a murderer is one of the most disgraceful things I've ever seen from the American media. Yeah.
Vice President, what is your specific role in the future of Venezuela? And I'm wondering, could you confirm reports that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was kept out of the planning for the operations because of her past concerns about military involvement?
Thank you, Gordon.
So I've heard a couple of things. One, that I was kept out of the planning for the Venezuela operation. That's false. And another, that Tulsi was kept out of the planning for Venezuela operations. That's completely false. Look, we're all part of the same team. And one of the things that is really amazing about that operation is that we kept it very tight to the senior cabinet level officials and related officials in our government. And we kept this operation secret for a very long time. I'm very proud of that. I think it suggests that the team works very well together. Well, looking ahead, what is my role? Look, my role is going to be whatever the president asks me to do.
Has he asked you to do something yet?
Well, every other day, I'm chairing the meeting that we do on this among White House principals to talk about next steps to try to ensure that Venezuela is stable, and as the president has directed us to do, to ensure that the new Venezuelan government actually listens to the United States and does what the United States needs.
Gorf, JD's watching you when you poop with those dreamy eyes. He's got those dreamy eyes, laser focused on you, watching you while you poop.
To do under our country's best interest. So I'm going to be as involved as the president wants me to be. So far, that's been very involved, and I'll keep on doing that so long as the president asks me to do it. In the purple.
Yes.
Even
Mr.
beyond the war powers
Sorry,
resolution.
we'll go purple and then we'll go pink or whatever that is in front.
Royal purple. And then beige. All right.
Okay.
Are there any
The girls know their
indications
colors.
network, are there any indications that the lady who was shot, I know there are different reports from there. Her wife said they were new to the area. Are there any indications she may have been a paid agitator, and maybe that there are others that were brought to the area, considering everything that's going on in Minneapolis?
Good question. How is she capable of funding her travels around the city obstructing ICE every day? Right? I mean, I know. I live in it. Let's say they're living in their car, okay? Minimum $250 a week, right? That's what it costs to eat, to have gas, to stay warm, right? Especially in Minnesota. So add another $50 for how cold it is there, right? Yeah, so at least $250 to $300 a week it will cost you to live in your car, right? In the wintertime, right? That's if you have a solar panel to power all your shit. If you don't and you have to run the car all day, add another like $50 or $100, right? Like if you're running the car like 12 hours a day, that's costing you $50 a day, right? Right there. Well, maybe less because gas has gone down a lot, right? Definitely $30 or $40 a day, in that range. A full tank every day is what you'll use. If you're running it like constantly all day, you'll go through a full tank every day. So they're not, even if they're living in their cars, following ICE around like a bunch of fucking misguided hippies, right? Right? Like they got lost on the way to the Fish concert or something, right? They're following ICE around on tour, right? It's like hundreds of dollars a week at minimum, right? To do that, right? So even like me, I could do it for much less, right? But I suffer. I'm not very comfortable, right? And I can't run the laptop all the time, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I wouldn't say that she was paid. I don't have the evidence to say that one way or the other. What I do know is that she was violating the law. And if you just look at the eyewitness accounts, they were saying she was there to prevent the enforcement of the law. She was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. That much is obviously clear. The rest of it, of course, is part of the reason why we investigate this stuff. Yeah.
Mr. Vice President, even beyond the war powers resolution today, Congress has bucked President Trump on issues like tariffs. Are you concerned that President Trump is losing his grip on Republicans in the Congress, and what are you going to do about it?
No, I'm not concerned at all. First of all, we talked to some of the senators who are going to constitutional law. It's not going to change anything about how we conduct foreign policy over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months, and that'll continue to be how we approach things. Go ahead.
Right. So we are seeing, regarding Iran, we are seeing the protests in Iran these days. The cities are begging for help from the U.S. and Israel, naming streets in the city after President Trump. It seems there is an opportunity here that may not come again. Will the United States stand by the citizens of Iran? And if Israel decides to strike again the nuclear sites in Iran, is the U.S. expected to take part?
Well, look, we certainly stand by anybody who's engaged in peaceful protest, anybody who's trying to exert their rights for free association and to have their voices heard. Obviously, the Iranian regime has a lot of problems. As the President of the United States has said, the smartest thing for them to have done, it was true 2 months ago, it's true today, is for them to actually have a real...
But, I mean, if it was as bad here as in Iran, I would support the protesters, right? But they're literally, like, demanding free oxygen at this point, right? Right, what I mean by that is like they're basically out there screaming for what they already have, right? And doing the things that they're accusing other people of doing.
Negotiation with the United States about what we need to see when it comes to their nuclear program. I'll let the president speak to what we're going to do in the future, but we certainly stand with anybody across the world, including the Iranian people who are advocating for their rights. I'll take just a couple more questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Okay, you got to follow Frank's little statement here. This is actually interesting. Okay. Let's see. Where'd it go? Fun fact I learned yesterday, short-term memory becomes long-term in the first 20 minutes of REM sleep. Priority is given to the most intense recent experience, right? Then he goes on to say, so doom scrolling before bed overwrites all you've learned during the day. That's how big tech has been programming people. That's pretty. That's a pretty deep insight there, Frank.
Concerning Venezuela, how would you assure the Caribbean region that they will remain a zone of peace? Because some member states in the region are concerned.
Well, look, the president had a very productive phone call with the president of Colombia yesterday, and we continue to talk at all levels of government.
If you guys don't know, and it's something I don't have a report looked up yet, I'll pull it up here in a second. Colombia has been moving troops to the border with Venezuela. It's not super alarming. It could simply be that they expect a war to happen, and then they expect migrants to come across the border. And you know, Colombia, we gotta build a wall around Colombia. You know, we should defend Colombia's borders, right? Because like national sovereignty is important in Colombia. Like once they get to America, they can
government
come in.
With a number of our friends in the Caribbean region. I actually think this is really good for peace in the Caribbean, because when you take away a major source of illegal cartel revenue, which is the cocaine trade, the fentanyl trade, other sources of illicit revenue, you actually remove the power of one of the main destabilizing forces in Latin America and in the Caribbean. I really do think, look, we say it all the time, this is the president of peace. One of the ways that you establish peace in your own hemisphere is to make it clear that the United States is going to be respected, that the United States is willing to take power away from criminal cartel organizations and give it to legitimate governments. That's how we see the future of the Western Hemisphere, and we think it's going to be much more peaceful than it was certainly under Joe Biden. I'll take one more question. Go ahead.
I want colonies.
On Greenland, do you have a message for European leaders? Many in Europe reject the idea that the island could be for sale.
Well, first of all, Secretary Rubio, I believe, is meeting with the leaders of Denmark and Greenland next week. I want to say it is, but maybe it's the week after that. We'll continue to deliver some of these messages in private, some of them in public. But I guess my advice to European leaders and anybody else would be to take the President of the United States seriously. What has he said about Greenland? Set to the side the crazy overreactions that I've seen from the press and from certain people in Europe. What has the President said? Number one, Greenland is really important, not just to America's missile defense, but to the world's missile defense. Number two, we know that there are hostile adversaries that have shown a lot of interest in that particular territory, that particular slice of the world. So what we're asking our European friends to do is to take the security of that landmass more seriously, because if they're not, the United States is going to have to do something about it. What that is, I'll leave that to the president as we continue to engage in diplomacy with our European friends and everybody on this particular topic. And again, thank you all for listening. Thanks for taking questions. And I just ask you, look, this is politics, and often Republicans and get in arguments with the press about things. And I understand that. I think it's really irresponsible for you guys to go out there and imply or tell the American people that a guy who defended himself from being rammed by an automobile is guilty of murder. Be a little bit more careful. We're going to talk about toning down the temperature, which I know the president wants to do, and I certainly want to do. One of the ways we tone down the temperature is to have a media that tells the truth. I encourage you all to do that. God bless you.
Good. Yes, I agree with you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Okay, so they're done. Great. So what do you think? The guy's innocent, obviously. Greenland, USA? Yes. What's up, MK Infinity? Let's see here. Yeah, so we got other stuff to go over because there's just been so much going on. We've kind of peered into Iran, right? The report published on a website of the U.S.-based group said demonstrations have been ongoing across the country for 11 days. It said protests took place now in all 31 provinces. So it's up from 29 that I heard yesterday, and it's now every single province of Iran has protests going on. Now, I've seen videos that have been verified of police officers standing down and joining the protests and giving up the police station to the protesters in multiple cities now. I've seen the people take over like warehouses and seize weapons and food, right? I've seen the Basij, which is like the militia, like the National Guard, let's call them, for Iran. They have been like, it looks like they were killed by Molotov cocktails and especially in the northern western part where it touches like Iraq and Syria. There is like a people called the Kurds, right? And the Kurds have taken to the rooftops with rifles and they're sniping the IRGC and the Basij. So while the regime only reports a few of their forces having been murdered, but I don't see how these people could have survived. Some of the videos I've seen of them being firebombed and shot and beaten to death in the middle of the street when they pull out a gun and try to start shooting at people. Like the whole people mob on them and beat them to death. I don't understand how the guy could have survived, right? So yeah. So that's what I've seen. While yes, 38 protesters are dead, it says, and 2,000 are in jail. I'm hearing reports as many as 2,000 IRGC have been either injured or killed. And when they say killed, they only say 2 have been killed. But I gotta say at least a dozen have been killed that I've seen with my own eye. If they're not dead, they are on death's door, right? So, okay, it's on day 12 or 13. Okay. They're saying 34 protesters and 4 members of security forces now they're saying. Okay, now they're saying 4 security forces. Like I said, it's got to be at least a dozen, a half dozen at least. That's pretty close. I would say maybe some of those guys didn't die. U.S. President Donald Trump said Friday that Washington would come to the rescue of protesters. Yeah, and that's why we're seeing only a few being killed in public. That's not to say that all the people being arrested haven't been executed. There's a very good chance that that is indeed what happened, but we don't know as of yet, right? What we do know is that Russians are lifting cargo aircraft into Tehran, and the Times has reported that Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei had a contingency plan to leave for Moscow with a small group of aides and family members. Plan B is for Khamenei and his very, very close circle of associates and family, including his son and nominated heir apparent Mujtaba, the Times quoted an intelligence source as saying, adding that assets and cash were being gathered to facilitate a potential exit. And that's why the protesters have also hit banks, right? They're not robbing the banks. They're destroying the banks to destroy all the financial records and to make it so that people just can't loot everything, right? That's another thing. I don't know how confirmed that is, but that's something I've heard has happened. Now, we have Delta Force operators who captured Maduro have now been repositioned to the Middle East as Iran crisis escalates. The same elite special operation units that captured Nicolas Maduro days ago are now allegedly moving to the Middle East. I hear that they're actually already there. Over a dozen U.S. strategic airlifts have crossed the Atlantic to Britain and then eastward, many carrying helicopters operated by the Night Stalkers, the elite unit that flew Delta Force commandos into Caracas. Delta Force has reportedly pivoted to the Middle East, with Army Rangers and air assault forces from Europe being repositioned rapidly. Flight tracking shows U.S. and British refueling tankers headed into the region. An unexplained blackout across Greek and Cypriot airspace Monday may have masked U.S. asset movements. American intelligence aircraft are operating continuously off Iran's coast. We literally crashed fucking Greece's fucking air defenses so that we could move in secret, guys. That's pretty badass, right? Let's see here. Are you out, John? Let's see here. Yeah, that comes with more confirmed reports that 101 Airborne deploys to Erbil. I believe that's in Syria. No, in Iraq. Let's see here. Iraqi political analyst Athir al-Shara said in an interview with the Iranian media outlet that deployment could have serious consequences. The presence of the brigade in Erbil, carries dangerous implications. He said the Kurdistan regional government should provide transparency, describing the situation as a threat to all parties. See, I told you, the Kurds are on our side. If you don't know, the Kurds are Christians that live in the desert between like Turkey and Iran, right? The Night Man. I think it said night. Did it say Nightman? It might have. So yeah. So not only are Delta forces, but 101 Airborne is also in the country at the border, right? While during this time, as all these planes are moving around in the skies, UK and France carry out joint airstrikes on ISIS targets near Syria's Palmyra, right? And so the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense said its aircraft joined France in striking an underground facility in Syria that had likely been used by ISIS to store weapons. The group appears to be resurgent after a period of relative dormancy in the region. Or, now this is just me speculating, or this could be them softening resistance between Israel and Iran through Syria, right? Like Palmyra is a major point between Israel and Syria, or between Israel and Iran, right? So if they had air defenses there, then Israel may not be able to move into Iran, right? So they had, maybe that could be also it too, right? We have Apple Kurd and iPhone Kurds in Finland. Well, I don't get it. Is that some kind of regional joke that I don't understand, or do the Kurds use Apple products? I don't know. It's something that I don't understand. The sudden arrival of several American C-17 Globemaster aircraft at British air bases has drawn attention across Europe, right? And so we've been moving these heavy transport units. It's just more confirmation that shit is building up in the Middle East, right? U.S. special operatives seen training UK as Trump builds up forces. American forces have been training for extractions after amassing military aircraft in Britain, right? So they're training for extractions, right? Like going in and capturing their enemies and bringing them to justice, right? So the Kurds help defeat ISIS? Yes, there are guys. They are our guys. The Kurds are our allies in the region, right? They are helping us, hoping that when all the dust settles, they get a patch of land between Iran that's like part Iran and part Syria and part Turkey, maybe. They might give up Turkey if they can get Syria and Iran, and a little bit of Iraq, maybe even too, right? Apple curd jam. Oh, it's a kind of a fruit jam. Okay. Now, the U.S. and the U.K., right, have seized Russian tankers recently. A Russian tanker and then multiple Venezuelan tankers, right? So we are stepping up in every theater. And that's exactly what U.S. authorities have released 2 videos filmed by the military following the seizures of the Sophia and Marinera oil tankers. So 2 of them now. It has been 2 of them. Both U.S. Homeland Security Kristi Noem and the U.S. Southern Command posted these clips on X, which show helicopters approaching large tankers from different angles, yada, yada, yada. BBC Verify analysis found both videos show a ship with a bridge and a support structure consisting with the Sophia, not the Marinera. The north compass point visible in both videos is also on the starboard side of the ships, indicating it's the same vessel. Let's see here. Shadow fleets or ghost fleets are becoming increasingly common with Venezuela, Iran, and Russia, right? So these are hidden fleets of oil tankers, guys, and apparently they're ours now. Financial intelligence firm S&P Global estimates that 1 in 5 oil tankers worldwide are used to smuggle oil from sanctioned countries. So that means that we're about to seize 1 in 5 oil tankers around the world. Or we're going to lay claim to them at least, right? Yeah, no. Putin's not going to do anything. He can't do anything, right? We are about to crash oil. He needs to save his dollars. Putin's about to have to pull out of Ukraine, right? Putin is about to have to leave Ukraine because he doesn't have the money to run an army because oil is about to crash, right? We're about to crash oil again. You guys remember when Obama crashed oil? He said that if they didn't want to play ball by his rules, he would crash the oil market and flood the world with oil, and that he would be able to make the rules after it was all done. You guys remember when that happened? I remember. Yeah, the same thing will happen again. So, and not only will it destroy the value of oil, but guys, do you know who the world's #1 importer of oil is? Do you know who needs oil more than anyone and doesn't have any of their own? Well, a lot of countries, but specifically China. China. Yes. China, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Yes. China desperately needs U.S. oil. Not just U.S. oil, but all oil that it can buy, right? And here I asked Google Gemini, to summarize China's oil infrastructure and theorize what impact the loss of both Iranian and Venezuelan oil would mean for China and Russia, right? China's energy landscape is navigating a massive shift following recent geopolitical upheavals, specifically the U.S. intervention in Venezuela earlier this month. This event has fundamentally altered the flow of the sanctioned oil circuit that China, Iran, and Russia have relied upon. China has spent the last several years building a fortress energy model to mitigate its heavy reliance on seaborne imports. Strategic and commercial reserves. China has about 2 billion barrels in reserve, but that's only really enough to run it for about, let's say, a half a year, 120 to 140 days, right? They have a teapot ecosystem of small, independent refiners, right? that are the primary consumers of the discounted oil from Iran, Venezuela, and Russia, and they lack the government mandates or state giants like whatever those are, and rely on high margins from cheap the dark fleet oil. Hey, we're talking about the dark fleet. So China is heavily reliant on Venezuelan and Iranian oil coming in from sea, right? Okay, Venezuelan Marey crude is ultra heavy and ideal for Chinese teapot refineries, right? And Iranian crude is light to medium and abundant. Losing both would force China to seek clean alternatives like Canadian oil or Middle Eastern grades like Oman and Iraqi, which they don't have the refining capabilities for, right? So they can get all the oil they want. If they can't refine it and do anything with it, then it's virtually useless to them, right? China currently receives discounts of $10 to $15 per barrel on Venezuelan and Iranian oil. Losing the discounted menu would increase input costs. China would likely drain its massive reserves to avoid bidding up global oil prices, right? But what would actually happen is the loss of both suppliers would effectively end the triangular trade of sanctions, where Iran, Russia, and Venezuela shared tankers, insurance workarounds, and clearinghouses to bypass the US dollar. See, now they can't, not only that, they can't undermine the petrodollar, guys. Once we control the tankers and we control the rogue exports, right? The petrodollar is back on top, baby. All right, so that's how it goes. So, yeah. So that is the real thing that's happening right now, is that Trump is positioning our military and our forces and our might in such a way that allows us to cripple our enemies, all of them at the same time. Russia, Iran, China, right? All three will be crippled. Venezuela, we don't really give a shit about, honestly, other than the fact that they betrayed us and they don't work for us anymore, right? They're working for the bad guys in our backyard, and we ain't gonna have that, right? That's just the way it is, right? So sorry for you, Venezuela, but that's how it goes down today, right? That is what is going down in the world for them. I'm looking for protests, seeing what these idiots are doing. Okay, here we are. Retards. I don't want that.
Shame! 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 Shame!
Oh wow, they got a little crowd going. So I think we're outside an ICE facility somewhere near Minnesota. ICE was out here antagonizing them, but they left, apparently, to go do work. Well, that's got to be insanely loud. I'm sorry, guys. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I bet that was insanely loud. Trump thinks he's the Godfather. Trump is the Godfather. The Godfather thinks he's Trump. Right? Like we did. Like we did. They want ICE to go home, guys. The irony of them showing up at an ICE facility, yelling at ICE, telling ICE to go home, when they literally are at their building. It'd be like someone coming up to your house and screaming at you, telling you to go home. That's not very multicultural, I'll tell you that. That's not very accepting. Imagine if they were doing that to, like, imagine if they showed up at Somalis' houses yelling, Somalis go home, right? No, it's not friendly, John. I mean, you're allowed to disagree with laws, but you are not allowed to disrespect them, right? You must respect the law, motherfucker. Three more years of liberal tears? Yes. Yes, it is. Paid retards. Paid retards. Paid retards. How lame is this? There are quite a bit of them, though. Look at them. Look at all these dumbasses standing out in the cold, freezing their dicks off to yell at police that aren't even there. There's like 2 cop cars there. Right? Imagine how lame these guys are. Right? They're just mad that their balls have shriveled up into their fucking stomachs. I'm just closing windows. Sorry, guys. Oh, what? I closed the wrong one. What happened? There we go. We are dumb. We are dumb. We are dumb. No balls, walls. We are dumb. We are dumb. Hey, get out of here. Go. You guys go home. We are home. You guys are the ones that actually probably should like try going home. Oh yeah, scream obscenities at the police. That'll definitely not get you beat up.
So when vehicles come in, will not move, sir.
Oh, they're pushing him around now. Yeah, you guys are obstructing. You know what they do to obstructors? Apparently they shoot them in the face. Yes, I did see the candlelight vigil on January 6th. Did they sing like God Bless America or something? They're just trying to keep that fucking lie alive as long as they can. What you didn't see was them holding a vigil for Ashley Babbitt.
What you're seeing here is federal agents have come out. They're trying to clear the road so people can get into the
Lame. We're lame. Paid.
Yeah, see that?
Alright, they're just firing pepper balls.
He's gonna start firing pepper balls. I think that's what he said.
Well, they're firing at the point blank. This is just starting to happen.
God, it's gotta be cold there. I used to live in that part, not even that far north, in La Crosse, which is like 100 or 200 miles south of there. It gets like negative 10 degrees, negative 15 degrees. Like that's like nothing. Like there's not even that much snow. Normally the snow is piled up high as shit. That's not even that bad. That's only like 2 feet high. It's risky being anywhere near these pseudo cops.
I want to give you a sense of the dynamic of the crowd. You see the people.
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to obstruct them, it's definitely risky. It's definitely risky obstructing federal law enforcement agents. I will agree.
Some people in there, some of them were wearing gas masks, kind of been encroaching on the border patrol.
You probably shouldn't do it. I'm going to advise against it. Like, you should not obstruct federal law enforcement officers.
Those pepper balls kind of hanging in the air.
Retards with guns.
Wow, that's our guy Patrick. Get that close up of that guy Patrick. You see him in the green hat?
They're arresting him. I know that. They're just annoying libtards. It's part that, yes. They're definitely arresting him. I don't know if they're deporting him or not, but they're definitely arresting him. And I also know that illegal immigration has like almost completely collapsed. Like it's in the hundreds of people a month now. Like the low hundreds, like 112. From thousands a day, right, to a dozen every day, 2 dozen a day, right? I don't know. I think that includes all immigration. That's what I've heard is that illegal immigration is down like 95%, or maybe even 98. Maybe it was 95 or 98%. Yeah, for everyone we know, there's 2 that we don't know, right?
You want to come lower? I feel like is that too high of an angle?
Yeah, I know that is unusual that they're waving an American flag. It's because they're out of flags to wave. They're not going to come out waving a Somalian flag, I know that.
I wouldn't right now.
Like, even they have too much fucking class to wave Somalian flags. Like, ew, gross. Oh, they're getting him. Oh, you're going down. It's going down. Oh, they let him go. Oh, are they taking that one? Oh, they're taking one. No, they let him go.
End of the road, please. End of the road. Guys.
Let me see your face, you fucking coward! Fuck you! No fucking need! Put it down!
We're press. We're...
Show your fucking faces!
What's going on?
Show your faces!
They're all in masks. Everybody on both sides are in masks. The people in masks are screaming, "Show your faces." Rich. Well, they got one finally. Oh, is that blood? I don't think that's blood. I think it's like a scarf or something. Yeah, it's like clothes or something. Well, we got another one. Stay back! Lucky you didn't get shot in the face. You want to go to jail too, buddy? You want to get tackled to the ground too there, Mr. Mouth? Take her too. Her too.
So what's happened just now is that these Border Patrol officers have gotten themselves surrounded.
They were literally protesting no one 20 minutes ago, and now they're being harassed. Good. Man, what if something bad happens and somebody shoots one of these guys? I'm not talking about the ICE shooting one of them. I'm talking about them shooting one of the ICE. That's what I'm actually more worried about than anything. Because did you see how they just got surrounded there? Right? I'm a kind of on Holy Harlot's side a little bit here in the lack of professionalism of these guys. They just got surrounded right there. They have less than lethal munitions, right? Had somebody opened fire on them, they would have been fucked. I think they were blocking the roadway and they wanted to get vehicles through. That's what it looked like in the beginning, that they were pushing people out of the way so that they could get cars out. That could have turned out very bad for them, though. No, those are pepper balls. It does get old fast. All right, guys. I think that's a good sign that it's about time to go. I will see you guys around in the future. seems like things are escalating quickly at home and abroad. It's gonna be an interesting next few weeks for sure, especially with the Middle East and China and all that, Russia. We're gonna be glued to our seats, I feel like, over the next few weeks here, guys. Hopefully it's more and more winning. All right, guys, I'll see you around. Peace.